Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rachak Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Baruch, the second chapter, and pretty much a continuation from the first chapter as we left off. You know, the Israelites here in Babylon, the captives, reflecting on the judgment by which the Heavenly Father had bestowed or brought upon us, okay, and acknowledging our sins and pretty much seeking mercy of the Lord. Okay, so that leads us into Baruch, the second chapter. Continuing from that point, Baruch chapter 2, verse 1. Therefore the Lord hath made good on his word, which he pronounced against us, and against our judges that judged Israel, and against our kings, and against our princes, and against the men of Israel and Judah. So everybody pretty much, was subject to this judgment, because the Lord said this of old. As the scriptures say, the word of the Lord does not come back to him void. So from the judges to the princes to the kings, the nobility, everybody was subject to this judgment here due to disobedience, to bring upon us great plagues, such as never happened under the whole heaven, as it came to pass in Jerusalem, according to the things that were written in the law of Moses, that a man should eat the flesh of his own son, and the flesh of his own daughter, which is, right, cannibalism. Now, this actually happened during the siege, right, the siege of Jerusalem. Remember, in a siege, you are cut off from outside resources, and eventually you run out of resources that you have, from within, and then it's clipped. So in this case, that's what our people had to resort to doing, right? During the siege, they had to, they were eating their children, which, let's go real quick to the book of Lamentations. Let me see, starting, might be the third or fourth chapter. There you go. This is the book of Lamentations, chapter 4, verse 10. I believe this is written by Jeremiah, bearing witness to the atrocities and the calamities and just the horrific scene of what was happening at this time. So he mentions here, Lamentations chapter 4, verse 9, they that be slain with the sword are better than they that be slain with hunger. Right? So to die, be put to death either, by a weapon is better than to die slowly and painfully through hunger. For these pine away, stricken through for want of the fruits of the field. Pining away, so you can sort of see, right? You don't have food, you don't have water, your body starts to eat itself, right? And then eventually you get skinnier and skinnier and skinnier, you get weaker and weaker and weaker, and then you die. Likely from, a weakened immune system, and then some other small pathogen killing you or something. But as it says here, verse 10, the hands of the pitiful women have sodden their own children. They were their meat. So they basically boiled them up, cooked them up, right, and ate them. As it says, they were their meat in the destruction of the daughter of my people. See, so they were eating their children. And going back to Baruch, the second chapter, as it is referenced here, when we go to the book of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, Moses did prophesy that this would happen as part of the curses upon our people if they disobeyed the Lord. So in the book of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, I believe this should be around the 40 something verse. Let's see. Or maybe, yeah, okay, so a little lower. Here we go. So this is Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 52. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates until thy high and fenced walls come down. And this happened on numerous occasions, right? Wherein thou trustest, which is because Jerusalem was a defense city, a fortress, right? It says, throughout all thy land, and he shall besiege thee in all thy gates throughout all thy land, which the Lord Yahweh thy God hath given thee. And he is it's whoever the Lord brought up against us, right? So at one point it was the Babylonians, at one point it was the Assyrians, at one point it was the Romans. Verse 53, and thou shalt eat the fruit of thine own body, just as a tree bears fruit, and the fruit has seed in it, and then that can be planted and bear, grow another tree. The fruit of your body is your offspring. Okay, so as it says, thou shalt eat the fruit of thine own body, the flesh of thy sons and thy daughters, which the Lord thy God, or which the Lord Yahweh thy power hath given thee, in the siege and in the straitness, meaning the difficulty, wherein thine enemies shall distress thee. So this was being made referenced here in Baruch the 2nd chapter as part of the plagues and curses that the Lord said he would bring upon us if we disobeyed him. And as you can see, this actually happened, right? At least this is one account of it. Verse 3, that a man should eat the flesh of his own son and the flesh of his own daughter. Moreover, he hath delivered them to be in subjection to all the kingdoms that are round about us, to be a reproach and desolation among all the people round about, where the Lord hath scattered them. Right, so when the Lord did this, we were now brought low, okay, lower than all these nations around us, which at one point we were above them, right? They were subject unto us when we were in our rulership. But now, right, due to this disobedience, as it says, the Lord delivered us to be subject unto them. Verse 5, thus we were cast down and not exalted, because we have sinned against the Lord our God, and have not been obedient unto his voice. And what is the Lord's voice? The prophets. That's and it's going to go on to tell you that. So by not listening to the prophets that were sent in different time periods, right, to warn the people about what the Lord's plans were, or what he was planning to do if they didn't stop their wickedness, the Lord in this time brought judgment upon them. To the Lord our God appertaineth righteousness, right? In other words, righteousness belongs to the Most High. But unto us and to our fathers open shame, as appeareth this day. And open shame because, not just because of the hardships we were in, but the fact that it's your fault. You know, when you, let me give an example here. Say you have this chick, right? Maybe you have a woman, but she's a little more on the hard-headed side, and everything you're trying to do for her, she's not listening. She's not, following your rules. She just wants to do her own thing. And so eventually she just, breaks off and then goes and does her own thing. And by going to do her own thing, she goes and gets messed up. Something real bad happens. She goes through some terrible experiences. And now here it is, she's ashamed, right? Even to come back to you, because not only did the bad things happen to her, but it was because she wanted to be headstrong and go do her own thing. And now look at how it backfired, right? Similarly, you tell somebody, hey, don't do X, Y, and Z. They don't listen. They go and do X, Y, and Z, and then they end up getting hurt. Yeah, they're hurt, but they're also ashamed, right? Because they didn't listen, and now everything you said would happen to them happened to them. So it's a shameful thing in that situation as well. So that's why they talk about this open shame, because the Lord did warn us and we didn't listen. And now look at where we at. So you have nobody else to blame but yourself. Verse 7, for all these plagues are come upon us, which the Lord hath pronounced against us. Yet have we not prayed before the Lord, that we might turn everyone from the imaginations of his wicked heart. And what this is saying is, even as the Lord was bringing these plagues upon our people, they still did not turn. They still did not listen, right? They still continued, as it says, in their imaginations of their wicked heart. Whatever it is that came to mind that they wanted to do, that's what they did. Verse 9, wherefore the Lord watched over us for evil. So the Lord will bring like a smaller plague to warn you. You may not listen. He'll send the prophets. You may not listen. He'll do something a little major. You may not listen. Then eventually he just, does something more drastic like what happened here. It says here, and the Lord hath brought it upon us, for the Lord is righteous in all his works, which he hath commanded us. Right, so it's not like the Most High brought this judgment just because he got up one day and wanted to do it for fun, but this was a part of the contract that Israel broke, and as a result, this was the judgment. Verse 10, yet we have not hearkened unto his voice, to walk in the commandments of the Lord that he hath set before us. This is majority of these books that you read of the various prophets. A good portion of what they're saying is calling out Israelites for their wickedness, calling out Israelites for not adhering to the laws, the commandments of the Lord, for not obeying the voice of the Lord. And this is like a recurring message over and over and over again that you read about in here. Okay. It says here in verse 11, and now, O Lord God of Israel, that has brought thy people out of the land of Egypt with a mighty hand and high arm, and with signs and with wonders and with great power, and has gotten thyself a name as appeareth this day. So when you go back to the time of the deliverance of Egypt, right, the Lord not only, before even getting us out of the land, he brought different signs, different plagues upon Egypt that brought fear and fame to the Lord's name. And also in delivering us from the hands of the Egyptians by parting the Red Sea, right, quote unquote, that area, the Gulf of Suez, that body of water, really. But anyway, parting it in half that we could walk on dry land. You know, all these were great signs, right, and wonders. Verse 12, O Lord, our God, we have sinned. We have done ungodly. We have dealt unrighteously in all thine ordinances. Yeah, so in everything the Lord said our people should do or shouldn't do, that's what they did. Don't follow the ways of the heathens. That's what they did. Don't worship any other God before me. That's what they did. Honor your father and mother. They didn't do that. Don't commit adultery. They did do that. Don't steal. They did do that. Don't murder. They did do that. You know, don't defile the Sabbath. That's exactly what they did. Keep the high holy days. They didn't. So they, as it says, they dealt unrighteously in all thine ordinances. Let thy wrath turn from us, for we are but few left among the heathen, where thou hast scattered us. So, you know, here it's like an acknowledgement of, you know, our iniquity, and then a beg for mercy, right, from the Lord to turn his wrath from us. As it says here, but we are few among the heathen, right, because we were separated, you know, and cast among the heathen, or scattered among the heathen, a bulk of us in Babylon. It says, hear our prayers, O Lord, and our petitions, and deliver us for thine own sake, and give us favor in the sight of them which have led us away. See, so if you notice, it's not only in this verse, but there are also some different verses, different prayers, where Israelites appeal to the Lord via, let's just say, his interest, okay? Because when the Lord is fed up with you trying to appeal for your sake, you know what I mean, sometimes it doesn't always go that way, right? So here, as they're saying, yes, we're begging for the Lord's mercy, but we're also appealing to the Lord for his interest, as it says, for your own sake, right? If you're not going to deliver us for us, at least do it for you. Why? Because you put your name in us, right? You've claimed us as your people. So what is this going to do to your name? What is this going to do to your reputation? Right? And you can, you know, utilize this in your prayers, right? When you pray and you ask for something, of course, you beseech the Lord for it, but you also bring into remembrance, right, of the Lord that, hey, Lord, or hey, Yahushua, you said, these were your words, right? Lord, you said X, Y, and Z, and, you know, we know that you're not a man that you should lie. So to uphold that reputation, as you said, if we do this, this is going to happen. Well, we're doing this. Or you said, if we ask this in your name, we're going to receive it. Well, I'm asking in your name, you know, obviously. Not saying go and ask for something that is against, you know, some wicked thing and then expect to do that. That's then what you're really asking for is judgment. All right. It's kind of like this, right? It's kind of like I don't know, doing something illegal in front of the police officer and begging them not to arrest you, or telling them to let it slide. You usually don't even do that in front of the police officer, right? So when you go and you pray to the Lord for some wicked thing, I mean, wicked things people try to hide from the Lord, even though it's futile. But you're going blatantly before the Lord to ask Him to let it slide. I mean, what do you think is going to happen there, right? But anyway, verse 14, hear our prayers, O Lord, and our petitions, and deliver us for thine own sake, and give us favor in the sight of them which have led us away. So, here we are in captivity. Let these rulers or those that are above us be favorable to us, right? So we may not just overnight be taken out of this place, but at least don't let them put extreme hell on us. That all the earth may know that thou art the Lord our God, because Israel and his posterity is called by thy name. Posterity meaning your descendants is called by thy name. All right, Israel meaning in the Hebrew, Yasher Allah, which is he is a prince of God. Okay, so we are the sons of God, and as it says here, and I believe it might have been Moses. I don't remember exactly. Yeah, it might have been Moses in the wilderness, as he was pleading for Israel's sake, and he was calling to the Lord's remembrance, like, hey, what happens if you do let us all die in here? Then the nations are going to say, oh, you couldn't deliver us. That's why you took us to the wilderness and killed us. Right? So appealing to the Lord's name or his reputation's sake, which he takes very seriously. Verse 16, O Lord, look down from thine holy house and consider us. Bow down thine ear, O Lord, and hear us. Open thine eyes and behold, for the dead that are in the graves, whose souls are taken from their bodies, will give unto the Lord neither praise nor righteousness, right? And what this is saying is that those that are dead, right, can't, and not in a literal sense necessarily, like it's just impossible for them to praise you, because then they'll be in the spirit world, right? But what he's saying here is, or what is being said here is, they're not going to be able to do the things we're going to be able to do here in the flesh on the earth, to burn incense onto you, to praise your name, sing psalms, all these things. Now, I don't know what's happening in the spirit world, right? Maybe there's a different kind of order over there, but the point that's being made here is, somebody that's dead can't do the things that we can do, right? So, instead of watching us and letting these calamities happen to us, have mercy on us, right? So at least you'll have somebody that can praise your name and give you that glory. Verse 18, it says, but the soul that is greatly vexed, which goeth stooping and feeble, and the eyes that fail, and the hungry soul, which is they were referring to themselves here in this case, because this was their condition, will give thee praise and righteousness, O Lord. Right? So think of this pleading like when you have somebody who say in some of these movies or TV shows, you have a case where an individual owes somebody money. The individual doesn't pay up, so the person maybe happens to be like in a mafia or some loan shark, and then he comes to kill the individual, and the individual is now begging for their life. And when they're begging for their life, they pitch the case like, you don't have to kill me. You don't have to kill me, right? You could kill me and I'll be dead, and then that would be it. Or you can keep me alive and I'll work for you. Or you can keep me alive and I'll do X, Y, and Z, right? So what they're saying is, I'm more valuable to you alive than dead, right? A dead body can't, be your eyes and ears or a spy for you or whatever, but if I'm alive, I can do X, Y, and Z. So something like that in a way. Verse 19, therefore we do not make our humble supplication before thee, O Lord our God, for the righteousness of our fathers or of our kings. So we're not here, beseeching you to have mercy, right? Because we were so righteous, right? Like, oh Lord, why would you do this to us? We didn't do anything wrong, reconsider. That's not what they're doing here. Right? It says, for thou hast sent out thy wrath and indignation upon us, as thou hast spoken by thy servants the prophets, saying, thus saith the Lord, bow down your shoulders to serve the king of Babylon. So shall ye remain in the land that I gave unto your fathers. But if ye will not hear the voice of the Lord to serve the king of Babylon, I will cause to cease out of the cities of Judah and from without Jerusalem the voice of mirth, the voice, so joy, right? The voice of joy, the voice of the bridegroom, the voice of the bride, and the whole land shall be desolate of inhabitants. And this, one major prophet that comes to mind is Jeremiah, because the Lord did send Jeremiah to warn these people, Israel, Judah in particular, in the land prior to Nebuchadnezzar coming over, about this very same thing, warning them that, hey, be subject or submit yourselves to Nebuchadnezzar because the Lord set him up. And if you do that, then you're going to be able to remain in the land and just basically pay tribute. But if you defy him and you try to rebel, then it's not going to go well for you. So as they're saying here, well, you did warn us, Lord, and we didn't listen. And then this happened to us, right? As it says in verse 24, but we would not hearken unto thy voice. Now, before going ahead and reading the 24th verse, I want to jump to the precept here in Jeremiah to prove this, right? So this is Jeremiah 27:8, and this in Jeremiah 27:8-11 predates what we're reading here in Baruch, right? In the sense that this was happening live. Jeremiah was telling these people this, and when they didn't listen, it came upon them, and then they reflected and said, oh wow, Lord, you did tell us this by the prophets, and we didn't listen. So Jeremiah 27:8, and it shall come to pass that the nation and the kingdom, which will not serve the same Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, and that will not put their neck under the yoke of the king of Babylon, that nation will I punish, saith the Lord. To put your neck under the yoke means to become servant or servitude to them. Typically, the concept of a yoke is that of a husbandman or a plowman who has oxen, right? And then he yokes maybe 2 oxen together, hooks up a plow, and uses them for work, right? So let's see. Plowman, plowing with oxen. Let's see if we can get an image here. Yeah, so he's driving, as they call it. They're driving the ox. So these are some examples here. I think maybe this is not bad. So this is a yoke that, yokes 2 oxen together, and then you can see right there, there's the little hook thingy that's used to break up the ground and create those furrows. So these oxen serve their master here, right? And he puts them under the yoke so they can serve him to do the job that he wants them to do. So the example being given here when it says to put your neck under the yoke of the king of Babylon means don't rebel, but serve him, because the Lord has set him up. And if you don't do that, as it says here, the Lord is going to punish you with the sword and with the famine and with the pestilence until I have consumed them by his hand. Is that not what the Lord did to our people for not serving Nebuchadnezzar, for rebelling? Exactly, that's what he did. Verse 9, therefore hearken ye, or hearken not ye to your prophets, which are there, because this is what Jeremiah is telling them, right? Stop listening to your false prophets, nor to your diviners, nor to your dreamers, nor to your enchanters, nor to your sorcerers, which speak unto you, saying, ye shall not serve the king of Babylon. So they're gassing you up. They're telling you lies. And the interesting thing about it is, as the scriptures say, the deceived and the deceiver are his, right? They are the Lord's. You can go, your diviners, sorcerers can actually do their divinations and see something, but it doesn't mean that what they see is correct, because the Lord can control that. So Jeremiah is telling them, look, this is going to be to your hurt if you don't listen to this warning. Verse 10, for they prophesy a lie unto you. Prophesy, right? Telling you something that's going to happen in the future, but what they're telling you is a lie. To remove you far from your land, and that I should drive you out, and ye should perish. The I being the Lord, right? So they're telling you something, and you're going to listen to that. And if you do, then the judgment that I just mentioned here is going to come upon you. Verse 11, but the nations that bring their neck under the yoke of the king of Babylon and serve him, those will I let remain still in their own land, saith the Lord, and they shall till it and dwell therein. See? So going back to Baruch, here is a reflection to say, damn, Lord, you told us, you told us this. right? That if we don't serve the Babylon, this will happen to us. And we didn't serve Babylon, and this happened to us, right? Verse 24, but we would not hearken unto thy voice to serve the king of Babylon. Therefore hast thou made good the words that thou speakest by thy servants the prophets. One example, Jeremiah, namely that the bones of our kings and the bones of our fathers should be taken out of their place, meaning that they wouldn't be murdered. They wouldn't be murdered. They wouldn't be buried. Okay, as it says here, and lo, they are cast out to the heat of the day and to the frost of the night, and they died in great miseries by famine, by sword, and by pestilence. See, so when somebody dies, their body decays. What's left is their bones, and their bones are to be buried, right? The dead body is to be buried plain, but what will be left is their bones, right? So a couple of cases could happen here, right? In the case that you had, as it says, our fathers are kings, and that their bones should be taken out of their place, meaning, you know, they were murdered in the streets, nobody buried them. And also you can have a case where, remember, as these as these troops are breaking in and they're pillaging the village, so to speak, you also have people that would go to like different famous like tombstones or whatever the case is, because back then, you know, and this is also in various different nations, what they would do is they're like kings or their people who are rich would have riches with them, right? Like on their neck or on their hands or whatever the case is, and they'll be buried with it. Okay, or at least it'll be in their, you know, sarcophagus or whatever it is. So I'm not saying that this is exactly what they did, but who knows, right? There's no detailed records of every single thing that the troops did when they broke into the city, but you know, could have been, right? Digging up those graves, getting those riches. I'm trying to remember if this was something that John Hyrcanus did this. I feel like, let me see, John. How do you even spell this guy's name? Okay, let's see. Sure, it'll correct me. There you go. Let's see, John Hyrcanus. Grave digger. Okay, let's see if there was I don't remember if it was you know what, maybe I'll find it another time, but yeah, maybe I'll find it another time. Don't know what I'm thinking here, but I do remember somebody either like digging in graves, getting the riches out, or something along those lines. But anyway, continuing here, as it says, verse 25, and lo, they are cast out to the heat of the day and to the frost of the night, and they died in great miseries by famine, by sword, and by pestilence, right? Same things that the Lord said would happen if you didn't listen, and they didn't listen. And the house which is called by thy name hast thou laid waste, which is the temple, as it is to be seen this day. And how is it laid waste? Well, it was destroyed, it was broken down. For the wickedness of the house of Israel and the house of Judah. O Lord our God, thou hast dealt with us after all thy goodness, and according to all thy great mercy, or all that great mercy of thine, as thou spakest by thy servant Moses in the day when thou didst command him to write the law before the children of Israel. So from the very beginning, the Lord has dealt with us, you know, like he's kept his end of the bargain. He's been overly merciful, right? Saying, verse 29, if ye will not hear my voice, surely this very great multitude shall be turned into a small number among the nations, where I will scatter them, right? So the Lord is saying here, if you don't take heed and you don't listen to the Lord, he's going to basically diminish us, right? And you know, by reducing our numbers, scattering us, and so on and so forth. For I knew that they would not hear me, because it is a stiff-necked people. But in the land of their captivities, they shall remember themselves, right? So in the various captivities, like for example, this one, yeah, we knew we were Israelites here, but we were, as it says, remember ourselves. In this case, we're reflecting on the sins that we had committed and beseeching the Lord for mercy. Now, ultimately, right, the main captivity, or the ultimate captivity where this was most prevalent, is this one that we're in now. Because in this case, we didn't even know we were Israelites, right? But the Lord put the Spirit upon us to bring that back into our remembrance. Okay, and as it goes on, as we go on to the last verse, you'll see why this is most prevalent in this time. So it says, verse 31, and shall know that I am the Lord their God, for I will give them an heart and ears to hear. See, so meaning the Lord would open up our minds, that we would remember, but also understand and come back to knowing who our power is, what our heritage is, what our nationality is. This was all, prophesied to happen, because at some point we lost all of that. Verse 32, and they shall praise me in the land of their captivity and think upon my name, which ultimately we're doing now, right? And the fact that we're even doing lessons like this is a testament to that. And return from their stiff neck. Now, this is really dealing with the elect of the nation of Israel, right? They are the ones that are returning from their stiff neck and from their wicked deeds, right? Returning from the wayward paths we were following in the world, right? Before the Lord opened up our eyes to the truth. It says, for they shall remember the way of their fathers, which sinned before the Lord. So, and that's by way of the scriptures, right? Which is also likened onto a book of remembrance. All right. And through this, we're able to see what we did wrong in the past and know, you know what, let's not do that, because that's how we ended up here. Verse 34, and I will bring them again into the land which I promised with an oath unto their fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and they shall be lords of it. And I will increase them, and they shall not be diminished. And I will make an everlasting covenant with them to be their God, and they shall be my people. And I will no more drive my people of Israel out of the land that I have given them. So, number one, during the time of the Babylonian captivity, when we were allowed to go back, that was only the southern kingdom for the most part, right? It wasn't the whole nation. Same thing for, the northern kingdom. They were here in the Americas. They weren't taken back to the land. In addition, when the Lord says he will no more drive us out of the land of Israel, well, after the southern kingdom went back, guess what? You had later on in the future, you had during the time of the Greeks, right? Which you ended up having a lot of Israelites flee from the land. But ultimately, during the siege of Jerusalem, you had, the Romans came up in there, 70 AD to 70, ended around 73, but you still had some Israelites remaining. Then I believe you had the Bar Kokhba revolts, which is much later on. And then eventually, I think it was Hadrian who ended up, decimating Jerusalem and then banned Israelites from going back there. Okay, but long story short, it is in this time that the Lord is going to gather his people and take them back to the land. And this will be fulfilled, right? Where we will increase and not be diminished and no longer be taken out of that place. Now, I think that should be here. Let's see. Hadrian bans Israelites from Jerusalem. Yep. It says here, in 131, Emperor Hadrian renamed Jerusalem Aelia Capitolina and constructed the temple of Jupiter Olympus Maximus on the site of the former Jewish temple. Jews were banned from Jerusalem, and Roman Judea was renamed Syria Palestina, from which is derived Palestine in English and Philistine in Arabic. Okay, so there's a little bit of that for you. You can read more about it if you would like, but there goes that. So anyway, this brings us to the end of Baruch, the 2nd chapter. Lord willing, this was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha, Kodash. Until next time, Shalom.